Welcome to the Light and Dark podcast. I'm your host, Sam Renfro. In this podcast, we'll explore what it means to be fully human, embracing all aspects of the human experience, the light and the dark. We'll discuss all things health and wellness, spirituality, and everything in between. And I'll share all of the impactful tools and lessons that I've learned on this planet so far. The light is within you. Can you feel it? Okay, welcome back everybody. Welcome back to the Light and Dark podcast. I am so happy you're here. I am so excited for today's topic, but before we dive into that, I just want to take a second again to thank you so much for your support this far. And if this is your fourth episode or if it's your first episode, either way, I really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to tune in. So with that, let's tune in to our own bodies just for a minute and kind of slow things down. And then we will get to this exciting day. So we'll just start with three collective breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. So just taking a deep breath in, filling up through the belly, and letting it go. One more time. And letting it go. Last one here. Filling up all the way. Pausing to the top. And releasing it out. Okay, so now that we are here present together, I just wanted to mention that last week we talked about, boundaries and really understanding your yes and your no as a way of defining your own compass, understanding yourself at a deeper level to really get clear on where your soul is guiding you to go, and it does that through our desire, right? So if we can get clear on our yes, then we can know what to say no to, or vice versa. If we get clear on our no, then we really can feel empowered to say yes with a different perspective. So we touched on that, but I want to go a little bit deeper today into more of the body's wisdom. And today is the full moon in Gemini. It's our last, I think it's a super moon of the year. I'm not exactly clear, but I know that I'm recording this on Thursday, December 4th. So whenever you listen, that's kind of where this is coming from. And I think the peak of the full moon is actually happening in like 30 minutes or less. So I am a Gemini. I'm really feeling this energy. I'm feeling this kind of creative outward expression, this flow of communication, and lots of ideas kind of coming through. And it probably hits me a little bit stronger because that's my sun sign, is Gemini. But without going too much into astrology, I just wanted to share one thing that I was kind of tuning into with all this. When we have a full moon, it illuminates what is happening internally, and it's usually a day of release. But it also pairs really well with what we set intentions for in the new moon 2 weeks ago, which was in Scorpio. So essentially we've been playing with these energies of Scorpio and Gemini, which are very opposite in a lot of ways. Scorpio is like the depths, the deep waters, all the emotions, and this kind of intensity. Whereas Gemini is really all about freedom, and it doesn't like to be tied down. It likes to be really, really free. It likes to have options. It likes to kind of, people think about like the center of attention. I'm not exactly sure that that's true, but essentially we like to be able to do a little bit of everything. We like to really invite this sense of of spreading our wings. And with that, I've been walking this line and working with this fear for a long, long time, and this balance between fear and freedom. And that's really what I wanted to talk to you about today, is this deep Scorpio energy that played out last month and into the new moon, setting intentions of like our power. Where do we want to use our power? Where do we want to embrace our power? And with all the intentions that I set, it's really about releasing the fear so that we can step into this freedom. It's kind of like this, again, opposite energies. So we want to explore the line between fear and freedom. And, ultimately it's kind of like two sides of the same coin. Freedom is on the other side of fear. And oftentimes we think, at least for me, it's really been about releasing the fear. Okay, like I don't want the fear anymore, You kind of get in that mindset of like, I'm done with fear. And you also have to understand that these fears, these belief systems, long ago, whether you be, it would have been when you were a child, all of these things were set in place to protect you. And so as I've been doing a lot of this deep emotional work lately, it has caused me to maybe create a better relationship with fear. And so without going too far on a different direction, one of the things that I've been doing within the fascial maneuvers that I teach, and I haven't really spoken too much about this yet, and I'll record a whole episode about what the fascia is and what the practice is that I teach and how I can help you release it. But one of the things that we do is the organ reset. And essentially we're charging up our hands, we're using up the natural electricity, and then we're pressing into the fascia around different points of the body, mainly on the torso where we have all these organs. And so, we have all these 10 organs, and all of them have associations with different emotions that come up. And my teacher really says, if you had one thing that you could do, you could pick the organ reset and do it 2 or 3 times a day, and it would just completely reprogram your body, because you're allowing yourself to release what is stored and stuck in these emotions. And then you can use your words, using affirmations, to then reprogram. And I got to be honest with you, I was, stepping into this spiritual space, I kind of never really resonated with affirmations because I have a very busy mind. And so affirmations to me just seemed kind of like hokey, and it just sounds like another thought. And it's like, okay, how are you actually going to reprogram anything with affirmations? But I understand now that not only is everything around you listening, but your body is listening deeply. One of the things that we can do to reprogram our water and structure our water is talk to it and, give it these messages of love or whatever it is that you want to infuse into your water, because you're taking that in. And the idea, there's a lot we could go into on that, but the idea is that we are around 70% water, or, 60 to 70, depending on your body and how hydrated you are. But we are water. Water takes in all of these messages, and it's affected by sound and vibration. And getting back to the fear aspect, one of the things that I've noticed within doing this organ reset once or twice a day, sometimes more, sometimes less, for the last 6-7 months or whatever it's been, I really notice, especially when teaching these classes, is that when I don't use the affirmations, I don't feel it as much. And when I do, especially in groups, it's like I notice my thoughts and my mind starting to calm down so much to the point where you just can't not notice it, because your whole state of being just shifts, just changes. And so I've also been kind of diving into sound healing and how these other healing vibrations can affect the fascia as a way to reprogram your entire system and release what you need to. But coming back to our words and our voice is so powerful, especially when it comes from you and it's affecting your own body. You can start to use this as a tool to not only listen internally on what's going on and be able to have something to shift it, but be able to unwind all of these emotions. Because as you do, then you're going to start to understand where these belief systems came from. The belief systems that maybe you don't want anymore, that are kind of holding you back. And this is such a, it's very talked about right now in this space as belief systems. And for a long time for me, it was something that I was like, where do I even begin? Again, coming back to the very busy analytical mind, I could probably tell you most of my belief systems, but I wouldn't really understand, or at least in the past, I never really understood how to change them. I could maybe acknowledge that they're there and maybe understand why and really get to the nitty-gritty core of, okay, I intellectually understand all of that. But releasing it was always something that I had a hard time with. So this is the journey that I've been on, is starting to bring everything that I've understood intellectually and bringing it into the body, because I truly deeply believe that the body is the key. Until we release things from the body, it's just going to stay there, and then it's going to send all of these signals, all of these emotions, everything up to the brain, and the brain is going to send it back to the body. And then you're going to stay stuck, whether it's in your life or in your posture or whatever it might be. And the emotions will just stay there, and they're going to kind of run your life until you safely allow yourself to release them. So coming back to this fear aspect, I've been in this period of really starting to shed a lot of things, whether it be emotional baggage or belief systems that aren't serving anymore, jobs that aren't working anymore, things that I'm not excited about anymore, things that I just don't want to do anymore, people I don't want to hang out with. And on one hand, it's been easy because I decided to move to a new city about 1.5 years ago. And so it's kind of a fresh start. But something happened when I did that. I was already in this period of really, of shifting, of transforming, of changing. And I kind of went from one really expansive, exciting life to one that it was maybe kind of completely the opposite because of necessary circumstances. And then I decided after that point, after that temporary period of not really knowing, I thought, okay, cool, I'm going to go to a place that I want to live, that I want to be in, that I think has, I made a list of all the things that I wanted. And then I just went and I leapt, and I was here. But it kind of was like, oh, okay, I'm really starting over from ground zero here. And when you don't, or maybe when you can't do the things anymore that you did before, you can't rely on the things that you did before, you're kind of in a place where you're not sure where you're going, but you're definitely not where you were before, and you're kind of in this weird intermittent, in this period of unknown. And I know I'm not the only one that's been in this place probably this entire year. It's been really an intense, deep year, but it's come with a lot of fear. And as I start to notice all the little times in my words that I'm speaking out to other people, to myself, to my partner, when I'm having these blocks, when I'm, having these really intense, confronting moments about finances, and having this deep period of uncertainty of I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know how I'm going to make it happen, but I gotta trust. I gotta keep going, And I got to really, really know that all of this is going to pay off. I'm just not sure how it's going to look or how it's going to manifest. So that comes with a lot of fear. And lately it's been so visceral in my body. The experience of fear has been much different than maybe I understood before. Or maybe it was just a normal reality. Maybe it just felt like anxiousness. And it showed up differently because I wasn't really willing to confront it, but now I am. And it's like I felt, in a way, so stuck because the vision of where my life was going to go or what I thought I was going to do or all the dreams that I've had in the past kind of feel like they're on hold. And so there's felt like this lack of freedom, like, like I don't have the money to do the things that I want to do, and I don't have the opportunities, and I don't, and you get really caught in this loop. And it's okay. Because when you sit with it, you start to understand what's running the show here. And I feel like I've gone off on a completely big tangent, but the idea is that when we allow ourselves to feel the fear, we can work with it and not against it. And instead of it being this huge block that is controlling our life, knowing it as what I've been calling it as sacred resistance. Sacred resistance is this signal that the body gives you, and it's a signal not only from the body but from the divine of, okay, this is a moment of resistance. But it doesn't mean that it's a block. It doesn't mean that you can't go that way. It's saying on the other side of this fear is freedom. And if you can allow yourself to recognize it, feel it, and push past it, really, really big things are coming. And this is what I've been working with. So having that tool within the organ reset that I teach, or within another way where you can put your hands on your body and you can start to talk to it and say, it's okay that you're scared. It's okay that I'm feeling this way. Thank you for showing me. Thank you for revealing your wisdom, body. I see you, and I'm going to move forward. And when you can start to do this more and more in the moments of what I would consider to call like a regular life, right? It's like maybe in the beginning or the end of the day or whatever, in these times when everything's always, when it's going okay, that's great. Because then when you can start to catch it playing out in real time when you're in a stressful situation, or if you're in a time where you're confronting a decision where the fear is really coming up strongly, then you can use these tools and say, okay, I see you, thank you, I'm going to allow you to be here, and I'm gonna continue to press forward anyways. So we're not fighting the fear, we're not trying to get rid of it, we're just saying thank you, acknowledging it as this signal, this sacred resistance, and then moving forward anyways. And the more that you start to do that, the more that you understand all of these periods in your life, whether it be now or later, that are really here to help you and here to show you where you are meant to go, where you're meant to evolve into, what. And you start to understand, okay, I have immense potential here. And the more that I can see this, the more that you actually get kind of excited about it. You get a little bit. like stoked, your power starts to come through and you're like, oh, okay, cool. I'm starting to feel a little bit of fear around this. Like, and, I used to really love to kind of find these cliffs to jump off of, whether it be into a river or the ocean or whatever. Those are kind of the moments where I don't know why, but I was always a daredevil when it came to like climbing things or just like jumping off of things. Like something about that raw feeling of like, all right, I am going to do this. It's going to be incredible. It's going to be a rush and I'm going to be fine at the end. You don't really know that you are because anything could happen in that moment, but you do it anyways. And let's just say you're about to jump off this metaphorical cliff into an ocean or a river or whatever it might be. If you've ever been in that situation, you know that you can't sit there and overthink it. I come back to this image all the time. Anytime I've ever been in that situation, the more that you start to look down, the more that you start to like question, ooh, should I do this? The more that all that fear starts to take hold and take over a little bit, and you are like 95% like likely to not do it anymore. The longer it's like we've all been, I'm sure most of us has been like at one of those areas in the river where people are jumping off and you're waiting for that one person to go and you're trying to encourage them and all of a sudden it's taken 5-10 minutes and they're just up there just like battling their own mind about whether they can do it or not. And it's like, okay, this is the process that we go through when we're making these decisions. I mean, maybe I'm alone, but I don't think I am. I just feel like the fear really can get hold of us and it prohibits us from living the life that we're meant to. But if we can start to reframe it as this signal, then it's like, all right, cool. I'm ready. I'm ready to push past it a little bit. So there's a lot here. I didn't mention that, in the organ reset, when we work with the fear, we're working with the bladder. And so, if you are looking for a real tool, reach out to me and I can send you the full organ reset video. It only takes about 10 minutes. But what we do is, you can take, I like to use both hands and bring them straight to like my pubic bone and press into it. And you send your hips back a little bit and then you just pull up on all that skin and then push your hips forward. And then you just breathe through the mouth 3 times. And then you breathe through the nose 3 times. And then after that is when you can say your affirmation. And as I've been doing this, my whole affirmation has completely shifted from like, all right, cool, I'm releasing all this fear from my body. Releasing is so important, but sometimes you get to the point where you're like, okay, cool, I'm ready to work with the fear and I no longer let it control my life. I no longer make decisions based on fear. And you can feel that. Your whole body starts to shift. So you can also just put your hands on your heart and start to ground yourself back into your heart and come back to this place of your center or of love or of gratitude. Anything that you can do in those moments of like panic or when you're starting to react a little bit. Like, okay, cool. I'm going to come back to the body, take some breaths, ground a little bit, and then I'm going to make a decision based on something else other than this force that's trying to hold me back, essentially. So again, this is all perspective. And I really think that, in my life, as I've been doing all of this work in various different modalities, various different ways, and it's like my perspective has completely shifted. And I hope that yours will too, for you to illuminate whatever it is that is keeping you comfortable or holding you back. And that's really what this full moon is about. Tune into it for yourself. I really invite you to do some journaling. Start to pay attention to how you are treating yourself internally. How you are speaking to yourself. What are the thoughts that are playing out? Maybe in situations where you're alone, or when you're making these decisions, or when you're in these places where things aren't very exciting. Maybe you're overthinking, or maybe there's a place where you can bring in a little more freedom. And if you can start to tune into that, then making a solid intention to make one small change, or to just write some things down and say, okay, this is what I'm releasing during this full moon, and this is the way that I'm going to move forward in my life. It's really powerful. Whether you know it or not, whether you write that thing down and you never look at it again, I guarantee you're putting some energy in the direction that you want to go. And this is a really potent time to do that. So I'm going to leave it at that. In some future episodes, then I will talk more about the fascia and probably more about sound. If you're interested in anything like this, I've started to explore how the two can pair together and how we can start to reprogram every cell in our body. I've really found the voice to be this really powerful tool in a way that I hadn't believed before, in a way that I hadn't felt before. And sometimes it does take me those times when it's kind of like they say you have to see it to believe it. I kind of have to feel it to believe it. When I feel it, I'm ready. And that's what happened when I started practicing these fascial maneuvers, is I felt it immediately in my body. I felt all the endorphins release. I felt the toxins release. I felt this sense of natural high that I was like, what is this? And then now I've really started to feel my whole being, my whole body just start to calm down, or, depending on what I'm looking for, there's ways to wake it up in the morning. There's ways to really fine tune this vessel that we're working with, that we are given in this life. It doesn't have to be this thing that we're constantly battling or constantly healing. It can be this amazing thing that supports us and that we can support back. And so, again, if you're interested in anything like that, let me know. Reach out. I would love to hear your perspectives, what you've learned. And if I can help you in any way, please let me know. As always, thank you so much. Have a beautiful rest of your week, and happy full moon. Let's keep the conversation going. Let's keep the healing going, and keep feeling empowered towards your truest, most authentic self.